Suicide Boys just dropped their latest project, Thy Will Be Done, and the production is insane. So today I made 2 beats which break down all the production techniques used on this album and a super important plugin to use to make your mix hit. You definitely don't want to miss that, so let's get into the video. The first big production technique on this project is building a soundscape rather than just a chord progression. So if you listen to songs like Hypernormalization and Fuck Ups, a lot of these beats don't really have full chord progressions. Maybe it's just one repeating chord, maybe there's no chords at all and it's just one simple melody, or even just an ambient texture in the background. So to start out my beat, I just grab these keys, and instead of laying down an entire chord progression, I just lay down my go-to dissonant chord for these Suicide Boys beats. So essentially it's just the one chord in your minor scale, but then I layered this note underneath it, which gives it a very dark, sinister feel. But I didn't even really care about the chords that much. I just like these 2 notes here. So I pitched them up an octave so they were the main thing that's being heard in the melody. Now to continue on with this idea of building just a soundscape rather than a full-fledged chord progression, I layered 2 more sounds on top of that, which really give more depth to the melody. Now, since these melodies are so spaced out and ambient, we need something that's going to drive the rhythm. So if you listen to 2009 Reggie Bush or Angel Grove, you can hear these groovy bass lines underneath the melody. So I just went in and laid down this simple bass line. Another huge production technique on this album is what I call warped melodies. If you listen to the melodies throughout this project, they don't sound very clean or polished. They sound dirty and sampled and usually slightly off key. So I started with this simple piano. Then to really get that vintage and warped sound, you want to export it as an audio file and then flip the sample from there. So I pitched it up 13 cents and now we have this. This gives it a different sound than if you just went into the VST and pitched it up an octave. It sounds a bit more distorted and messed up. From there, I wanted something underneath all that. So I grabbed that same 1-bar piano and stretched it out to 4 bars and then pitched it down 2 octaves. Now, if you listen to tracks like Leviticus, you can hear the melodies are much bigger and cinematic compared to some of Suicide Boys' earlier work. Because your guilt is great, because your sins are flagrant, I have done these things. So to recreate this in my beat, instead of just repeating what we already have, I created a few different sections in the sample with a few different melodies. For the first part, I grabbed these arcade vocals. Then for the next 2 parts of the sample, I lay down this dissonant key. Then after doing tons of pitching, chopping, and reversing, we got something like this. Then to give the melodies more depth, I added a few more sounds underneath everything. Now finally, if you go back to Hypernormalization, you can hear they use a siren as the melody. And if you go over to 2009 Reggie Bush, you can hear there's this wah chord hit at the start.
You did good, son. It's
So I just added a few various sounds to fill in the rest of the melody. And then last thing, it can't be a Suicide Boys beat without those iconic Memphis vocals. Then to give the melody that warped vintage feel just on everything, I slapped this rabbit tape plugin on the master channel, detuned it a little bit, added a little bit of flutter, and that really ties in the entire melody together. Suicide Boys drums are actually quite simple, but there's a few small details that can really level up your drum production. So I started out by laying down some sounds and midis from my Metamorphosis kit, keeping everything super simple, but of course it's a Memphis beat, so we had to have that little snare roll at the 8th bar. Now, if you listen to Leviticus or MSY, the hi-hats start out normal, but they'll switch up into a lower pitch pattern halfway through the beat. So I did something a bit similar in my beat. Now finally, in terms of patterns, I just grabbed an 808 from the kit, layered the same rhythm as the kicks. So you might notice, the patterns aren't bad, but the mix is just not hitting. And this is where a lot of producers go wrong. The next big production technique on this album is compression. If you listen closely, a lot of the drums on this album, they sound heavily compressed and they hit super hard. I personally asked a lot of the big producers in this space, how do they get their drums to sound like that? And all of them told me to use this free plugin, OTT. OTT is essentially just a compressor, but it works so well for these Memphis, suicide, and funk type of beats. So on this beat, I use OTT on both the master and the kicks. Starting with the kicks, this is what it sounds like with no effects. It doesn't really hit that hard. So the only two knobs I ever touch with OTT is this depth and then the out gain. The depth is practically just like how much it's compressing. So when it's on 100, it's just way too much. So I'll just bring that down accordingly, and then I'll turn the out up just to make it hit. Then on the snares, to make those hit a little bit, same thing, bring the depth down, and then I actually took out the lows, boosted the highs just to really make that high end snap. Simple reverb on the hats, and then OTT on the master to give that overall compressed sound. So this is with no OTT on the master, but then all the other sounds are mixed. It's still just a bit distorted. Things are hitting way harder than when it wasn't mixed, but it's still a little distorted. So that OTT finally just gives everything its own space. Now to put everything together, I pitched the sample up 200 cents, sped it up to 140 BPM. It sounds like this now. And I simply added this EQ on there. So for parts of the beat where there's an 808, I obviously want to take out that bass low end. And then I have some sections of the beat where the bass is actually present, and then that takes the space of the 808. Other than that, the drums stay the same pretty much the entire time, except for that hi-hat switch up. This melody was pretty advanced, so the melody does most of the arrangement work. Just got a simple riser and then open hat on the drop for when I switch into those hi-hats. But overall, this is what our beat sounds like. Now, before we get into the second beat, I just really quickly wanted to tell you about my Metamorphosis kit. It's my Funkin' Memphis multi-kit. It's got drums, melody loops, a bunch of midis, percussion loops, a whole bunch of stuff. And let me give you guys a little secret. I'm making a way bigger Memphis kit soon. It's going to be about 5 times as big as this one. And if you get this kit, you're going to get a massive discount on that one. So this kit alone has helped so many people. It's my go-to sounds, my biggest beats ever used sounds from this kit. So definitely go check it out. It's on sale in the description below, and you'll get entered to get a massive discount for when my next Memphis kit drops. So that being said, let's get back into this video. For this next beat, I wanted to go a little more chill and laid back. If you listen to Old Addicts, New Habits, you can hear these chill roads that have these big chord extensions on top of them.
Was not unfamiliar voices, it was mostly characterized voices.
So on my beat, I just grabbed these keys and laid down this progression. And the easiest way to build the extensions is literally just copy paste the same notes from the chords up an octave and play it out. Then just like last time, I layered it on a couple sounds to build a bigger soundscape. The next big production technique is live instrumentation. Suicide Boys often uses real samples or melodies that use real instruments in them. If we go back to that track we just listened to, you can hear this live sax throughout it, which is honestly impossible to recreate with a VST. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't play many instruments yet, but over the last few days I picked up the bass. I think it's a very easy instrument to learn, and I would recommend all beginners to start there. It's not a very important instrument in the beat, but it's just something to give it that live feel, which by the way, in that next kit I'm dropping, gonna work with some session musicians, so definitely tap in. But on the bass, I went over and played a very beginner level melody. Now, if you listen to songs like MSY, you can hear how they mix these realistic sounds with more virtual sounding stuff. Then I added a couple more melodies to finish the beat. On this, I use this UAD waterfall rotary speaker, which really gives it that vintage messed up feel. The sound is completely different without it. This is the original sound. This time the sounds are a bit more trappy, but it's still pretty simple. You got a kick, snare, hat, and then this bell perk. Over for the second half to make it hit a bit harder, we got the 808s. We've got this open hat, which layers the kicks to make it hit. Finally, we got soft clipper on the master, followed by OTT again, followed by this EQ. Sometimes in these Suicide Boys beats, I'll take out some of the high end just to give it a little bit more of a vintage feel. Now the drums sound like this. Now to put everything together, we added some Memphis vocals in the intro, and we added a drum fill and riser from the kit right on the drop. Then all together, our beat sounds like this. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you found it helpful. Let me know who you want to see me cover next. Get Metamorphosis, and I'll see you guys in the next one.